Hello, my name is Joe van Dijk. Welcome to my channel. You're watching Screenplay Essentials and this is episode 8. I initially wanted to call this episode 7 part 3, but I wrapped the series in the last episode of part 2. So I thought let's make episode 8 as a bonus episode, which deals with video game characters and a bit of a toolkit that you can use to implement your own creative writing. So the first part I'll delve into just a quick overview of writing gaming characters in video games, and then secondly I'll introduce a very famous alignment tool that people use when they create their role-playing characters for board games or game developers in their games under the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. It's a very famous tool that helps people create characters' identities, and I will share with you those components in how you can implement that into your own creative writing and storytelling. So first of all, let's have a quick overview on game characters and writing for game characters. Now, the few books that I've read, the chapters on character, they all say the basic things that I've already covered. So if you're a writer in the gaming industry, please have a look at episode 1 to 6 or 7. You'll have a good and firm understanding of what to do when writing for game characters. There's a lot of genres that you find games in, whether it's an RPG or first-person shooter, FPS, or a real-time strategy, RTS, a side-scroller, or a top-down views strategy type of game. Regardless of what you're dealing with, you generally find 3 types of main characters. The first one that you get is a silent protagonist. This is a character that doesn't have a voice or thoughts or inner thoughts. It's usually a silent character that the player controls, and it puts emphasis on the player taking control and stepping into that shoes. It's a very subjective point of view playing that game. With regards to character development, you generally can't really do that much with a silent protagonist, only what the plot unravels or reveals. And often it's the case that it's a huge emphasis on the NPCs, the non-playable characters, or the villains, or the sidekicks, who are enriched with character development and personalities, how they engage you as the player and you go along with the plot. Borderlands is another prime example of a silent protagonist. In each of the games, it's a massive undertaking of lots of side quests in an open world game, but the character is silent and a huge emphasis is placed on the voice acting and other characters that protect this role. Jack Ryan in Bioshock and Delta in Bioshock 2, and Delta had more freedom over Jack as he did a lot more choice making in the second game. And then the second type what we find is a cinematic character. This is closely related to cinema and movies. So all those things about the foundation of developing characters, the characters' objectives, their desires, their trauma, their wounds, their armor, their essence, their psychology, their identity, all of those things are vital for character development. And it's often a type of objective point of view because you're the player, maybe controlling the character in a subjective way, but you are watching a story unfold, almost like a movie, but you're interacting with the character going through this movie. Then character development is implemented into the main character and other characters to fully flesh out that experience for the player. Ghost of Tsushima is a masterpiece game that shows the cinematic character in an open world, also where the character is trained as a samurai. There's a lot of internal conflict with how he needs to achieve or accomplish tasks or quests, in how the subterfuge type of shadow tactics are implemented that goes against their code. This character changes throughout the game using a change arc, and the game beautifully showcases the character's wound that cripples the character mentally because the father figure gets killed in front of him as a child, so he blames himself that he weren't able or strong enough to protect his father. And even in the very end, where his own uncle that wants to adopt him as his own son goes against him because he betrayed the code of the samurai, and even then they have a massive conflict at the end of the game. Mafia 1 was an iconic character that showed a cinematic character that starts off as a very innocent type of taxi driver, normal average Joe type of character. He gets swept into the mafia. He climbs through the ranks of the mafia family, and unfortunately there was a betrayal in the story until he felt a desire to confess and spill the beans to the press, and unfortunately also caused his demise at the end. Max Payne, another beautiful type of cinematic character that has a film noir component to it, in which the character is a detective, a hard-boiled detective cop that undergoes this torment in how he deals with people, and a lot of love and betrayal type of themes with the femme fatale type of character with Mona, and how their relationship implodes, and Val, that was his friend, that also betrayal, that when the secrets gets revealed, that a lot of people are in it against him, and that sort of trauma is what spirals him out of control. Then the third one, the open world character. Usually this type of character, emphasis is placed on the player. So the player makes the choices from the very get-go, even before the game starts. They choose the character's skills, their traits, their class, their background, their wound even. They would choose the attributes, their personalities, all those things, even the makeup of the character, to fully immerse themselves into the story. And a lot of emphasis is placed on a character's choices. So a lot of dialogue branching is implemented in the game in how characters choose certain options that leads them to different paths, and the player chooses what the character physically wears, what type of lightsaber he chooses, what type of lightsaber stance he chooses. This type of character development is governed by the player making those choices, how the game ends, and who they interact with throughout the game. So generally speaking, there's usually 3 or 4 character arcs that you find in games. The first one, very famously known as leveling up system, where you have a character that starts on level 0 and they obtain new skills through quests and experience that they gather to become a better player and better character to solve the conflict or defeat the enemies that they find in the game. This sort of thing you can transfer easily to film as well, because if you think about the Karate Kid, the character learns new skills and finally has the means to solve his conflict at the end of the movie. The leveling up system and the growth arc is often the same type of thing, but you also find growth arc in the linear type of stories where a character starts off very innocent and they learn new things about their circumstances and their base, and how they discover that these are the new things that they need to obtain to finish the story and defeat the bad guys and solve their conflict. Dragon Age Origins showed a beautiful growth arc with Alistair and Morrigan. Baldur's Gate 2 had a beautiful growth arc with Jaheira and Imoen. Then, of course, the change arc that often occurs in a lot of cinematic type of main characters. The 3 characters in GTA 5, Michael, Trevor, and Franklin, they had specific ties in between them. Michael changes his perspective as well as Trevor changes his perspective, and all 3 characters undergoes a change arc in how they, the stuff that they believed in the beginning and how it transformed them at the end. Even with Franklin, that has to choose between Michael and Trevor, or obtaining the neutral, peaceful ending and everyone forgives each other. Then you also get like a reversal arc that you sometimes find. Mafia 1 again is a beautiful example of a reversal arc in which the character reverses back, trying to get the things off his shoulder. Bioshock 1 beautifully showed this, as well as a character being obeying instructions by, would you kindly do this, would you kindly do that, into a point where you need to find the antidote to this code so that he become free of that. Other arcs can also be used, like decline arcs or rise and fall arcs. Those arcs can fully implement the immersion of what a player experiences with a cinematic type of character. Then lastly, you also get the multi-party system. It's heavily focused on or emphasized on character relationship. This is your typical top-down RPG type of genre in which you have a party of 4 members or 6 members. Those characters influence the plot severely. I remember in Baldur's Gate 2 where a character was like a paladin type of character that has a strong code, and if you kept doing the wrong things, the character will literally turn against you or just disappear. Or Baldur's Gate 3 that had a huge conflict between the creatures and the mind flayers that's invading, and that dilemma was such a huge fork in the road that the player had to choose either becoming a mind flayer themselves to fight off the big baddie at the end, or makes other choices in how certain other endings occur for that game. Those characters are often very, very rich in how they interact with you. They can even backstab you once you've got ulterior motives that can have a huge impact in the storytelling and the character development of the main character itself. And lastly, a very famously morality system are implemented into games where the player chooses often certain choices of either being a good guy or a bad guy. And instead of a predetermined linear story, the characters would get special endings. The first game I've experienced with the morality system was Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, in which Kyle Katarn, a Jedi, the more powers, the more dark side powers you choose and your behavior in the game, you become a Sith in the game. Mass Effect 2 was a very famous type of morality system, the Paragon and the Renegade side, in which how you deal with interacting with characters and the dialogue you choose. And if you complete your squadron stories, and it also had an impact on how that story ended. Spec Up the Line also was a very iconic game that showcased the choice making of the character and how what the choices they make result in the game they play. Okay, cool. Let's jump into the Dungeons and Dragons alignment tool. This is a very famous toolkit that game developers use, and people that play or love to play role-playing games, they use this tool to help develop characters' identities. And basically, it's characters' personalities, their behaviors, their attitudes, their philosophies are all represented on this alignment tool. How they usually represent this tool is usually by these 9 blocks or 9 identities. And basically the horizontal line is the lawful characters versus the chaotic characters, and the vertical axis is the good versus evil with neutral in the middle. Now I will just do a slightly different presentation to make myself remember these things, but you'll see I'll explain the neutrals first, and then I'll go into the good guys, and then I'll go into bad guys. But typically what you'll have is the first 6 is generally what a main character or protagonist are often find themselves in those alignment. The bottom 3 are typically the antagonist or villains, and you can have a protagonist being lawfully evil or lawfully chaotic or neutral evil, but it's mostly driven by the antagonists and villains, where the good guys, the heroes, the protagonists are often seen through the top 6. It's not meant to restrict your character at all. You can have 2 characters on the same alignment that are completely different by using different versions of SUB-TROPES, or the 2 people are the same type consistently as they fall into that archetypical role. Good versus evil, this is as old as humanity itself, but not in a religious context. This is more of a fantasy realm type of scenario, where if you're a good or a bad person, it's by conscious choice. And for some people, of course, it's not a choice. It's their attitudes, or it's how they recognize the things around them and how they interact with people or in the surroundings. And they're often ones who are drawn to the darkness or drawn to the light. Good implies altruism, selfless nature, respect for life, have a concern of dignity of sentient beings, or a protection of innocent life. If you think about the good old Jedi, the guardians of the galaxy, ones who protect life and would sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Evil implies hurting, oppressing, killing people, debasing, humiliating, destroying, destruction, all those nasty things. Evil characters often have no compassion or empathy for others. They would kill people to further their own goals, even if it's corrupt officials or politicians. And other ones would follow orders. Either they are being oppressed, or they are under the thumb or of a bigger, badder villain or antagonist than they are. And other evil characters would destroy and cause havoc and kill people for fun, for sport, as they are often mentally insane. Then the law versus chaos axis. This axis is a devotion to lawful or chaotic nature. That can also be a conscious choice, but often is the case where it's more of a personality trait in a character that is recognized as opposed to being chosen. Most of the cases, it's due to circumstances or backstories or trauma that leads a character to be either lawful or chaotic in their nature or how they view the world. So law implies people who pursue honorable duties, a sense of duty, their trustworthiness, respect for authority, and obedience to authority even. They're reliable, they always tell the truth, they uphold tradition, morals and values. They are ones who would easily hold someone accountable or scold someone if they fall short of that particular kind of duty. On the downside, lawfulness can create characters who are closed-minded, they can be judgmental, and they can also move into tyrannical territories when they enforce their law over other people. Chaos implies freedom, flexibility, adaptability. It's often extremities of ideals in which characters would often act out in a chaotic fashion, whether it's dropping a nuclear bomb, or they would favor controversial ideas to solve a problem as opposed to the more traditional ones in the past. On the downside, chaotic characters are often irresponsible, they can be reckless, they can resent legitimate authority figures and rebel against them, and they're difficult to control in any given circumstances because they follow their own conscience, their own mind, their own rules. They are on top of the world. Now, the neutrals, being neutral means they've got a lack of commitment to follow either one of the two sides. But it also means they've got a commitment to a balanced view of life. They believe that characters should live in a neutral stance like themselves and not choose sides. Neutral people are often committed or focused in personal relationships or building communities, communication with nature in itself. And some understand the ideology of the good nature of protecting innocent life, but they also are reluctant to make the big sacrifices or sacrifice themselves for an objective or the greater good. Law is a positive thing. They understand and respect authority, but they're not beholden to authority at all, nor do they feel the need to rebel against anyone. You can think of someone who are honest and tell the truth, but they can be easily tempted to lie and deceive others as well. So let's start with the first three with a couple of subtropes and get the neutrals out of the way first. The first one, the true neutral. This type of character doesn't feel strongly about any sort of alignment, nor do they seek any sort of balance, and they're often indifferent to chaos versus order, and they just want to live their own lives. This is much like the brown wizard in The Hobbit, or the Rousseau, the French survivor in Lost. Mostly they want to be left alone, but you can introduce this type of character as a wild card, and mostly because they have no alignment to the good guys or the bad guys. If you think about a scientist that is in pursuit of science, the scientist would work for the good guys and the bad guys, and there's no moral quarrel that they have with themselves. Oppenheimer is a good example of where this character knows building the atom bomb is a very dangerous and evil thing, and unleashing this thing on the world, but still does it for the name of science. Another character like the dude from Lebowski is a beautiful example of this true neutral that marches at the beat of their own drum. Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones, Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, they are also ones that operate on their own beats. They don't align themselves to either goodness or evil. Then you get the lawful neutral. This is the type of character strongly believes in the concepts of rules and order, honor, tradition. They often have their own codes within themselves, whether they follow some authority or not. This is like your soldier following orders, despite which general gives it to them. It can be like a devoted monk or a nun in the religious context. It can be a judge or a lawyer following the letter to the law very specifically, or some wizards like Merlin to fully be invested in law and order, to especially getting King Arthur to the sword. Michael from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is a prime example of a lawful neutral. as he conducts himself in whichever he's doing bad things and good things, but he's got that sense of, as an ex-cop, being lawful in how he sees the world. Dwight from Office is another beautiful example that doesn't believe in coloring outside the lines. Judge Dredd very famously hunting down criminals, following letter to the law, both judge, jury, and executioner. Chaotic Neutral is an individualist. They follow their own heart and they shirk any rules and traditions and order from other societies. They promote freedom, but it's their freedom above all. Good and evil is second place. Even their actions can speak to that, where they will have interest and they don't see it as good and evil because their freedom comes first. If you think about the elves in Lord of the Rings, they are kept away from society, reclusive, and if you trespass in that forest, you get an arrow in the head. Even the Cable Guy movie shows this beautifully, of another nutter personified. The Mask, most of Jim Carrey's roles are the nutter type of archetype in which you see the character pursue that complete 120% chaotic freedom. Other famous chaotic neutrals include Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy, Han Solo, Fiona from Burn Notice, Ferris Bueller, Punisher, Jack Sparrow, Deadpool, and even House. Okay, so the next three are the good guys. The first one, the neutral good. This type of character acts selflessly often, and they generally have no regard for or against lawful concepts like rules and tradition. They would easily follow the good guys or officials, lawful officials, to help them out, but are not beholden to them. And often when the deed is done, they go back to their own lives. If you think about the cowboys in the westerns that would slap on the badge to help the sheriff, in the event of breaking the law or bending the rules in order to do the good thing, they would do so without batting an eye. If you think about the anti-hero as a prime example of this, that doesn't necessarily go out of their way to help the good guys, but when their hands are forced, they would step in to solve the day or be the hero of the day, but then return to their ordinary lives. They often refuse the call to adventure and only act when they are forced to, particularly when they are self-involved in that conflict. Other examples of neutral good characters would be like Batman, Wonder Woman, Luke Skywalker, Jason Bourne, Chuck from the Chuck series, both JD and Turk from the Scrubs series, Will Turner from the Pirates franchise, and Oscar from Schindler's List. This brings us to the lawfully good character. A lawfully good character is someone who acts with compassion, they walk with honor, they've got a sense of duty, very importantly. Again, if you think about the cowboy sheriff, that were often portrayed as a lawfully good character, and they would often regret taking any action that would compromise the law, the code, ethics, or if there is harm towards others, they would prevent that from happening, even if it's a good thing. Even executing the bad guy, they would prevent themselves from doing that so that the letter of the law would follow through in seeing justice takes place. Great examples of lawfully good characters would be like Obi-Wan in Star Wars, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Superman very famously stands for justice, law and order, the cop in Fargo, the cop in Hot Fuzz, Rowan Atkinson's character in the Thin Blue Line series, and even Tony Stark famously starts off as a chaotic good character, but he becomes a lawfully good character despite trying to achieve the goodness, especially his conflict with Captain America in Civil War. Which brings us to the chaotic good character. The chaotic good character is essentially a character with a loaded gun, with a heart of gold. They would do whatever is necessary to get the job done for the better of the good. They've got a disdain for bureaucracy that often gets in the way from improving society or solving the conflict. Buddy in Anger Management is a prime example of this, of going to extreme measures to help out his patient. John McClane in Die Hard is another good example, as well as Carter from Rush Hour, Jake from Brooklyn 999, or Andy from Parks and Recreation, Peter Petrelli in the Heroes series. Robin Hood, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, and even Django in Django Unchained is that chaotic good type of character. Okay, let's look at the last three identities, which is evil characters. The first one, neutral evil. This type of character has no composure to harm other people, nor will they go out of their way to cause chaos and destruction and carnage if it doesn't benefit themselves. They usually make a lot of allies to help pursue their own goals. And another way of thinking of them is they hold evil as an ideal, so they do evil things for the sake of evil. If you think about a deadly assassin, a secret agent or double agents, corrupt politicians, mercenaries, it can be a masked villain or a masked killer who kills to stir things up in the society that he operates in. If you think about the movie The Village, where the elders dress themselves as the monsters and they create that fear-mongering to keep the people controlled and confined. The character Biff from Back to the Future is also a good example of this. Noah from Chinatown, Gavin from Vertigo, Michael from The Godfather. Nightcrawler would be a good example of this, that the character is neither lawfully or chaotic, he's just neutral evil in what he commits the crimes to be the first to report. Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean and Jordan from The Wolf of Wall Street is another good example of a neutrally evil character. Evil over neutral, these ones are immoral and deliberately evil. These characters are devoted to spread evil, or they either follow a cult or worship some sort of dark entity. And these type of characters are also not loyal to the ones around them. If you think about Emperor Palpatine, Darth Maul, and Vader, those ones would be pursue evil over neutrality. Then you get a lawfully evil type of character. This type of character sees a well-organized system to be benefiting themselves. They can even take advantage of those systems to pursue their own wants and needs and power and influence. Examples of this would be like corrupt officials, military tyrants or dictators, ones who still work in the system to further themselves and have evil ideals. A good example of this would be Tony Soprano, Hannibal Lecter, Magneto, entire Sons of Anarchy, who have their own rules and codes that they live by, but they do evil things. Gustavo from Breaking Bad, trying to play by the rules and hide from authority. And Hans from the famous Die Hard movie acts as this lawfully evil character that plays around with John McClane. The anti-villains are ones who would do evil things, maybe not realizing those evil things or justify those evil things as good things, but they have a line that they won't cross, like murdering innocent people. Dexter would be a good example of this, where as he murders the other serial killers, so he operates within the law to suppress his own evil desires. Then lastly, a chaotic evil character. These characters have no respect for rules and order, tradition. They don't operate well in groups. They're ones who put high value on freedom, but it's their freedom. They see themselves as the center of the universe. Most of them are clinically or mentally insane. They would easily blow up a building if someone looked at them very strangely. They're typically selfish and cruel, narcissistic. They resent people giving them orders, or other baddies or other villains giving them orders. They're usually ones who march to the beat of their own drum. They take charge and into the chaos that they leap into with a lot of joy. The weird character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Sweeney Todd being mentally insane. If you think about the Joker, is probably the best example of this evil, chaotic type of character. Then obviously at the end you get unaligned creatures that are driven by instinct. Even if a tiger or a lion or a shark is a predator or hunting prey, they're not doing evil things, or they're not abiding to any law and order. They're just driven by animalistic instincts. But obviously in fantasy genres you do get cats and animals talking, but you would often then assign any of the 9 identities to those animal characters, as opposed to them just being driven by natural instinct. So you can see these 9 identities can be fully utilized in creating interesting characters, whether you're playing a role-playing game for a board game or writing a fictional genre, short film or feature film. You can implement this alignment tool to help understand what you're doing and to create beautiful and enrich your characters. If you put these identities on face value as it is only, you may fall into the trap of creating two-dimensional characters or stereotypical two-dimensional characters. But if you develop them with the cause and effect and understand that these character identities are the metaphorically armor that they put on, you can try to show how you strip them away and what lies beneath that armor, what's their wounds, what are the things that what's the character's essence underneath that, so that when you have that complexity, you create a beautiful three-dimensional character. So in conclusion, thanks for watching. I hope this episode wasn't too long. I know these descriptions can take forever to go through, but hopefully you get I paint a picture for how you can utilize this tool to your advantage in your own toolbox in creative writing. Whether you're writing a novel or a theater play or a comic book strip, a short film or a feature film, or even working in the gaming industry, you have you can see how these foundations, these building blocks of character development is seen across all mediums. I could have easily made this episode on theater plays, but I decided to do it on game development, on video games, because games are such a huge industry, especially in our modern times, in modern society, that if you're very fortunate to work in a gaming industry or for a gaming studio, you can utilize these foundation building blocks in developing unique characters, and vice versa. You can utilize the knowledge and the examples that you see in video games as a springboard to fully flesh out real life characters in fictional work. And using the alignment tool is a very effective way in doing so. So hopefully now you can see you've got a lot of tools in your toolbox to your advantage. You can use the Enneagram, you can use the Myers-Briggs 16 personalities, you can use Carl Jung's archetypes, which I'll go into I'll explore those archetypes in the next series. Or you can use this alignment tool, the Dungeons and Dragons alignment tool, to help build character identities and personalities and flush out those ideologies that we all can connect to and root for your characters, and you put the audience on a journey. So that's it for series 1. Thanks for watching. Thanks for going through all these lengthy episodes. I hope you understand that I'm trying to give as much as possible to you as a young writer, young filmmaker, so that you can implement that knowledge into your own creative works. Please remember to like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. This is a very young channel, and I'll be moving on to the second series in which I will delve into understanding character. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.